Of extreme northern Luzon, Pag-asa says Tropical Depression Gardo maintains its strength as it moves northward east of the region. So far, Pag-asa says Gardo is unlikely to hit landmass and directly affect sea conditions over coastal waters. This is contrary to the initial forecast of Gardo possibly intensifying into a tropical storm. Pag-asa now says the tropical depression might weaken into a low-pressure area tonight or tomorrow morning as it interacts with Super Typhoon Hinamno. The Super Typhoon, meanwhile, is expected to enter the country's weather monitoring area anytime tonight between 6 to 8 o'clock. Once it does, it will be called Henry, the third cyclone for the month. We'll have more on Pag-asa's full forecast later on in the program. Batanes, the country's northernmost island province, is bracing for the effects of both Tropical Storm Gardo and Super Typhoon Hinamno. Batanes Governor Marilu Caico told CNN Philippines she already tasked provincial disaster management officials to help and inform people to secure their homes and other properties and to make sure preventive measures are in place. Caico said the local government has also advised fishermen and farmers to prepare.
Huwag nang pumalaot at itali na rin sa ligtas na lugar ang kanilang mga bangka. At mga farmers din, remind din namin sila na ilagay sa lugar ang kanilang mga alagang hayop sa safe na lugar at anihin na kung mayroon na silang anihin na mga gulay or root crops para hindi masira ng bagyo.
The governor says social welfare officials have prepared relief packs. Meantime, Cagayan, a province in the northern tip of Luzon, also hunkering down for the two cyclones. Stanley Gahete joins us live from Cagayan. Stanley, what's the situation like there now?
Pia, despite the improbability that Tropical Depression Gardo and Super Typhoon Hinamnor will make landfall, their impact might still be felt in some parts of the country.
At the northeasternmost part of Luzon is the municipality of Santa Ana in Cagayan. Some fisherfolk here already stopped their activities in preparation for the impact of Tropical Depression Gardo and Super Typhoon Hinamnor.
Yung lang po hangin ng kung malakas na malakas, ay di wag na lang kaming pumalaot, gano'n. Nakikaramdam lang po kami.
The Santa Ana Cagayan Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council is now making a series of important announcements.
Together with the PNP, sir, nagkakanta kami ng Upland Tambuli na may parating na bagyo. Mag-announce kami sa para barangay, mga low-lying areas na minawarningan namin sila na maghanda kasi nga may parating na bagyo.
In Tuguegarao City, local officials and residents are preparing for possible disaster just 1 week after Typhoon Florita stormed the region. Barangay Caritan Norte is among the flood-prone areas in the city where most families residing near rivers and creeks are usually affected. Some residents have already transferred their valued possessions to higher portions of their houses in anticipation of flooding.
Siyempre takot po sa kasi yung tubig po nasa na po namin hagdan kaya naglikas po kami diyan, sir, ng para sa safety, makabigla ang tumaas pa.
Officials are now ready to distribute medicines and first aid kits along with relief goods.
Nagrurubing kami, nagra-round kami kung sino talaga yung affected families.
Meanwhile, the Magat Dam water elevation is at 187.3 meters as of 2 p.m., just a few meters before reaching its spilling level at 190 meters.
Wala pa naman tayong reason para magbukas pa ng gate natin. Kung makikita natin na kung nasa almost 188 na tayo, at makikita natin na malakas yung rainfall, ay magkuha na tayo, preemptive release na tayo. Hindi na natin hihintayin yung 190.
The Cagayan River is likely to swell once the gate of Magat Dam opens. The Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council of Region 2 is preparing for 2 typhoons that could possibly bring rains and extreme flooding in Cagayan Valley.
The weather situation here in Cagayan Valley is relatively fine, but local officials and residents who are used to these scenarios have prepared for any eventuality. And that's the latest here in Cagayan. Back to you, Pia.
Stanley Gahete there reporting. Well, back here in the National Capital Region, the Metro Manila Development Authority says its traffic enforcers will ramp up efforts against erring drivers on the ground as it abides by a Supreme Court temporary stoppage of the No Contact Apprehension Policy, or NCAP. The MMDA says it will continue on-the-ground apprehension and assign enforcers to areas with security cameras. These areas include EDSA, Commonwealth, Quezon Avenue, Rojas Boulevard, C5, and Macapagal Boulevard. The MMDA explains the NCAP suspension began Tuesday afternoon when it received the court notice. Court order has no retroactive effect, which means fines and apprehensions that took place before the state order are valid.
Sana po ma-maintain natin yung driver discipline even in the light of the suspension of the no contact apprehension policy dahil para naman po sa ating lahat ito, para po mapabilis ang daloy ng trapiko, para po safe ang ating mga motoristas.
Since the MMDA is not a respondent in the case, the agency says it will consult the Office of the Solicitor General for advice whether or not to join in the petition. The MMDA registered around 107,000 apprehensions from January until August 24th under the now suspended traffic policy. Common violations were disregarding traffic signs, the number coding scheme, and loading and unloading of passengers. Cebu City, the mayor there issuing an executive order allowing the voluntary use of face masks in most places except medical facilities. Mayor Michael Rama says establishments and schools can still require the wearing of masks, adding that this is, quote, non-obligatory, but a measure of self-preservation. Rama adds they informed the Interior Department of the new policy. But health officer in charge, Maria Rosario Bejeres, says the health department was not consulted about the move.
Hindi po pwede na may isang lugar sa ating bansa na nagpapatupad ng kanilang protocol samantalang the rest of the country are implementing the other side of the protocols or magkaiba. We know that people all over the country travels to and fro these different areas of the country. And we know that COVID-19 crosses borders. So if we are preventing the infections in most of the areas in the country, and one area in the country will not have that kind of safeguard, and therefore the possibility or the risk of infections would be higher in this area because the safeguards are not there.
Neighboring Mandaue City also plans to ease face masks rules, especially in open spaces. Mayor Jonas Cortez's executive secretary, Edu Ibanez, says Cortez will recommend amending the local ordinance on face masks to the Mandaue City Council. Last June, Cebu Province lifted the face mask mandate in well-ventilated and open spaces. The health department again urging the public to get boosted. The DOH partnered with the private sector for its Pinas Lakas booster campaign to make vaccination more accessible. Aside from booster shots, people can also get their primary vaccines at Robinson's Magnolia in Quezon City. The DOH says the booster rate in Metro Manila and other regions has yet to reach 50%.
Sa ngayon po ay nasa 40 almost 48% na yung ating booster na babakunahan dun sa target po natin na doon sa 658,000 plus.
The department admits it is challenging to urge people to get their boosters because many are becoming complacent. Non-residents of Quezon City are welcome to get vaccinated. People can register through the QC VaxEasy website, but walk-ins are allowed. More stories ahead. The new economics report lists the Philippines as the fourth most disaster-prone country in the world for torrential storms and flooding. And former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev dies at the age of 91.
It can be dangerous out there. Buti na lang there's locally superfruits. Para sa akin, super nutritious, super delicious. All superfruits contain more antioxidants than your average fruit. Superfruit for super you.
Ito ang RPN. Got the kids down, never touch ground, never enough. Got me feeling good. Everything's good vibes, good vibes.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. Back to our top story. Pag-asa keeping track of two cyclones. Tropical depression Gardo maintaining its strength but is set to weaken into a low pressure area tonight or early tomorrow as it begins to merge with supercluster Tina. Weather Bureau Pag-asa forecasts cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms including Metro Manila, Calabarzon region, Maropa, Bicol region, Ilocos, the Cordilleras, Batanes, Zambales, and Bataan. Tina was A new study shows floods and other water-related disasters could cost the Philippines over 6.96 trillion pesos or $124 billion in losses in less than 30 years. Global professional services company GHD released its Aquanomics report, which ranked the Philippines as the fourth most affected country in terms of water-related calamities. The report says the agriculture sector stands to lose the most. The study recommended carrying out flood studies and building infrastructure out of flood zones, but it acknowledged the challenge of doing so in densely populated areas. The Agriculture Department sounds the alarm over the low supply of salt in some vegetables. As Lois Calderon tells us, the shortfall in produce highlights the country's dependence on imports.
Onions, garlic, salt. They are your key spices when you saute, and even when you make your salad. But the government says they've become scarce. Estimates by the Department of Agriculture and its attached agencies, the Bureaus of Fisheries and Plant Industry are all in the red, a deficit. From onion farmers in Central Luzon to Calabarzon, Mimaropa, down to the Visayas, white onion harvest has been zero.
We have no importation of yellow onion since January. The rest is local stocks. While the harvest that was harvested from April, March, was computed to last only on 3 to 4 months. So that's why the supply of yellow onion is zero or scarce.
Even Ilocos, the garlic country, is not producing enough of this major spice.
We are not sufficient at all pagdating po sa garlic, sir. No, we are dependent on importation.
Agencies that work with coastal villages are moving to find ways to help salt producers plug the scarcity. Salt makers is one industry that has yet to build a roadmap.
As far as local production is concerned, admittedly, we have not produced enough.
Some fast food chains have already substituted other vegetables for white onions.
We have already spoken with fast food chains who are big onion users, and we will start contract growing, of course, protecting the farmers to make sure that their prices will not be sacrificed.
Lawmakers also want to get to the bottom of the chicken and egg story. Data show there are enough, but egg prices have doubled in recent weeks to as much as 10 pesos in supermarkets. Kamote is back too after at least one kamote chips maker recently flagged supply shortage. There's enough rice, fish, and pork too, but the stock is buffered by imports. A sad reminder of the Philippines' dependence on food importation and of the decades-old neglect of its agriculture sector. Lawmakers have no prosecution powers, but they have the power of the purse, dictating how much money will go to food and agriculture. Lois Calderon, CNN Philippines.
A network of digital advocates is asking the National Privacy Commission to investigate alarming spam texts that now have the names of recipients. Digital Pinoys are worried how unknown senders have gotten hold of receivers' identities in what seem like personalized spam texts. The message is inviting the recipients to click a link which will be redirected to an online gambling site. The group adds the NPC should immediately investigate and seek prosecution if there are cohorts based locally and whether local companies collecting personal information are selling data to third parties. For its part, the NPC ordered the country's 3 mobile network providers to blast warnings against these new forms of spam messages. In a statement, Globe Telecom said it is bent on putting a stop to these activities, and it has already blocked nearly 800 million scam and spam messages from January to the end of July. The Tourism Department and its attached agencies are seeking a budget of nearly 3.6 billion pesos for next year. That's higher than the budget allocated for the DOT this year, which is 2.74 billion. The DOT plans to launch more tourism initiatives, such as building one-stop shops for travelers. These areas will have clean restrooms as well as personnel who could help tourists manage their accommodations, travel information, and security.
We are breaking ground on 10 tourist service rest areas, 2 in Luzon, 4 in Visayas, and 2 in Mindanao. If you're a tourist traveling across the country from one destination to the next, one of the most basic necessities is a clean restroom. And yet, it is barely available. And that is why we see this as a very important project that will enhance the overall tourist experience.
The DOT also plans to launch the Bisita Be My Guest program, or BBM Guest, where Filipinos living overseas can win prizes by bringing tourists to the country.
Through the BBM Guest program, we will be offering raffle prizes to those that bring guests into the Philippines. We will be providing them with a travel passport that they can use to go across key destinations, get stamps, and claim a prize at the airport. And this will also give them a privilege card that would provide them with discounts in accredited establishments across the country.
And the DOT will roll out an app connecting tourists to accommodation sites, accredited tour operators, and transportation providers. Frasco says the Life Cycle app will also help the DOT determine how long tourists stay in an area and how much they spend. The Philippine National Oil Company appealing to Congress for a revolving fund so it can provide fuel discounts in case of volatile prices. PNOC President and CEO Jesus Posada says the state-owned company has a one-time budget of 2.5 billion pesos for targeted fuel relief subsidy. PNOC wants the allocation expanded through a special provision in the 2023 budget. Posada says PNOC will not duplicate what other government agencies are doing in providing aid to sectors affected by the fuel price hikes.
The difference, Mr. Senator, is that we are doing it in terms of discounted fuel rather than in terms of money. So we intend this not to be a dole-out, but to be a sustainable fund. We will be designating specific service stations, good Senator. In fact, there will be two modes of doing this. Either government will do the importation itself and get a third party to distribute, or we will co-load and co-purchase with a given oil company.
But Committee on Energy Vice Chairman Win Gatchalian says more discussions are needed as he raised concerns of possible corruption. The Migrant Workers Department has listed 5 emerging markets for Filipino job seekers. Portugal needs workers in its tourism sector, while Austria and Croatia require healthcare and IT professionals. Meanwhile, Hungary is looking for skilled workers and Romania domestic workers. Secretary Tuts Ople also says these countries have reached out to the government, although she advises those interested to wait until negotiations are completed.
Pag-uusapan pa namin kung ano yung mga occupations na pwede, magkano ang sahod, anong lalamanin ng kontrata. So, wag muna po kayong pumunta doon, lalo na bilang mga turista, dahil baka mapahamak lang po kayo. Hintayin nyo lang po at nakaschedule naman na yung mga bilateral talks namin.
Meanwhile, the department has asked Facebook to take down a number of pages found illegally recruiting Filipinos for overseas jobs. In global headlines, China closes the world's largest electronics market as the city of Shenzhen imposes more COVID-19 lockdowns. The tech district of Huaihiyang Bay is one of the 3 neighborhoods placed under tighter COVID restrictions. All businesses except for supermarkets, pharmacies, and hospitals are shut down until Thursday. Residents are forbidden to leave their homes except to get tested for COVID. Shenzhen officials say the spike in infections is because of new Omicron subvariant BF.15, seen as more transmissible and harder to detect. In Russia, the last leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, has died. He was 91. Russian news sources say his death was because of a long illness. Gorbachev led the Soviet Union from 1985 until its collapse in 1991. He is credited for introducing key political and economic reforms to the USSR and helping end the Cold War. Up next on Newsnights, the San Miguel Beermen and TNT Tropang Giga clash in a pivotal Game 5 of the Philippine Cup Finals. And game developer Free Fire officially releases Justin Bieber's newest track, Beautiful Love. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Ito ang RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
Welcome back. Breaking news for Super Typhoon Hinamno has entered the Philippine Area of Responsibility, and it's now called Henry. Pag-asa says it entered at 5:30 this afternoon. We are closely monitoring developments, so we'll give you more information as soon as they become available. Making headlines now in sports, former PBA Commissioner Noli Ayala takes on a new role as chairman of the Philippine Sports Commission. Malacanang confirming Ayala's appointment last night. The veteran sportscaster joins bowling legend and Commissioner Olivia Bongku in the commission. Sharing his excitement about the appointment, Ayala writes, in his words, "Time to serve. Let's get to work." And which team will triumph in the pivotal Game 5 of the PBA Philippine Cup Finals? The TNT Tropang Giga and the San Miguel Beermen are now competing at the Big Dome, with TNT in the lead 41-37 in the second quarter. The squad takes this match will be a win away from the championship. Stay tuned to our social media platforms for the results. In entertainment, get ready to bring your childhood dreams and have a good time. Did I say that right? The cinemas as Dragon Ball superhero movie hits Philippine theaters. The famous Japanese media franchise is back and all eyes are on its Piccolo Gohan tag team. The movie has become the 5th highest grossing anime film of all time since its release on August 19th. Jokoy's Easter Sunday is finally in theaters. After its debut in Hollywood earlier this month, Easter Sunday follows Jokoy as Joe Valencia, a struggling actor, comedian, and single father who reunites with his dysfunctional Philam family on Easter Sunday. And from movies to music, Justin Bieber's newest single, Beautiful Love, is now available worldwide. Game developer Garena Free Fire has officially released the track, which features Justin's animated character, J. Biebs. Here's a sneak peek of the new dance anthem. Garena Free Fire. That is it for tonight. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. and on Politics as usual at 8. I'm Pia HONTIVEROS for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
Ito